And we are going. What is going on, everybody? It is your boy, Eric, aka Young God, coming to you live in the Green Dungeon today, giving it to you real raw and rugged. And I have a super supreme special guest. That's the first time I've ever said super supreme special guest doing these interviews. Have a super supreme special guest on the other line. I'll let him introduce himself. Who do we have here today?
Hi, I'm Eric. Eric Feigl-Ding. I'm an epidemiologist. It's not the study of your skin; it's the study of epidemics. So, we're still in the middle of this dumb pandemic that should have ended way long ago, but here we are, 18 months later, and it's still coming at us, and it's not over. And hope everyone's doing well right now.
For sure. Well, before we get into everything, how are you doing today, man? I don't know if anybody asked you that enough. How are you doing today?
It's a tiring pandemic, like people. I'm tired. Everyone is tired of this pandemic, but the pandemic doesn't care about whether you're tired. The pandemic doesn't care about your politics. But there's lots of anti-maskers, lots of anti-lockdowners. There's lots of anti-vaxxers. There's lots of you know, like anything. Basically, they just want everything back to normal. And like I said, we all want it back to normal, but the virus will continue to kill people. And at some point, some of you know the attacks are just like people attack Fauci. People attack almost every epidemiologist these days. So just trying to hang in there.
Well, hey, for the people watching this, I like to always give a background on how I know the person, how I discover the person. You were a person that didn't follow you at first, but you would just always pop up on my timeline. I'm like, all right, I might as well follow this guy at this point. So I'm not the brightest guy. You're the guy with the big brain here. So every time anything COVID related, Delta related, vaccine related, hey, let me go check Dr. Eric page. See what he's talking about. You're my fact checker guy. So anything COVID related, just want to let you know, I trust you. So if anything bad happens, put all my faith in you, man. I don't know if you does that feel like a big? Do you ever think like that's like a big responsibility? Because you have what 500,000 followers on Instagram or on Twitter. Do you feel like people like put their faith into you, so you have that responsibility to, I guess, report accurate and trustworthy reports?
Yeah, that is a big weight in certain ways. I was never really big on Twitter. I've been on Twitter for since 2008 and 2009, like 12 years ago, but never been that big on Twitter. But I realized Twitter is a microphone to the world, and people listen. Reporters listen, policy leaders, world leaders around the globe listen, and so yeah, there's a little bit of weight. You know, and I think sometimes when you can just be sloppy and casual, that doesn't work anymore. You have to be really, you can say something, but then half the people will interpret it completely the wrong way, even though you think, your friends would understand what you mean. But I think there is a lot of weight into being very, very precise. And, whenever you put out any info, there's always like 20 different questions and can of worms that opens up with it. So, it's hard, but I'm trying. It's a life and death situation in this pandemic. So trying to put out the best info.
Hey, I appreciate it. I don't know if you feel appreciated, but I appreciate it, and it's very interesting you brought that up because just off of the pandemic, really quickly, words are crazy, man. I've made jokes around friends that like, oh, that's hilarious. We get it. You make that same joke around other people, they're like, what does that mean? Because the interpretation could be just so different, like
Right.
the way you comprehend things. So I feel like Twitter is kind of that's like a con of Twitter because you really can't explain yourself the way you would with me and you right now as we're talking because there's so many different ways you can interpret words. I guess we could just start from the super bottom basic of just the questions I have about COVID and things going around. Um, Let me grab this really quick. So super duper simple. How effective is this right here? Because I have this and I have this, the N95. So
Yeah.
with the Delta variant going on, should I only be wearing this or could I also wear this as well?
Well, the virus, the particle, is the same. The issue is that any given dose that you get is much more likely to lead to a big runaway infection in your body. So, like cloth masks originally was to catch your breath, your aerosols, your droplets and aerosols. But the cloth mask in itself does not give you enough protection from inhaling it from around you. And a lot of people don't wear masks these days. And a lot of people can transmit without any symptoms because a lot of them are asymptomatic. And so this is why early on they were kind of wrong to say, only wear masks if you have symptoms. No, you should wear masks, period. But the issue is the virus is so much more dangerous. The virus here with Delta variant, it is 1,000 times higher virus concentration than the original virus. So whenever you test positive, instead of 6 days, you now test positive in day 3.5 on average. It's that much faster, and on that first day, it's 1,000 times higher. So you should wear like a higher premium quality mask. So there's two ways. Either you have a double. If you don't have a premium one, you can wear a double mask, a thin surgical, and then with a cloth on top. That gives you pretty good protection. But even better is a premium like a KN95, N95 mask. And of course, the other key thing is the fit, because if it's leaky on the sides, and that's why you double mask. The main reason with double mask is to prevent the leaks. If it's leaky on the side, it's not as great. So it has to be really, really good fit around the nose bridge and tight fit. And it does give you enormous amount of protection. We've seen it. Like there's hospitals that doctors and nurses only wear surgical masks, and doctors wear N95 masks with tight, band fitting. Huge difference, humongous difference in infection rates. The surgical mask, thin surgical mask, again, it catches droplets, but doesn't protect you from inhaling, right? And again, it doesn't catch that many overall compared to the premiums. I think you should go with premium right now. And they're actually pretty inexpensive. Like you can buy these KN95s online for just, $1 or $2. If you order more, you can get it for less than $1. So it's affordable these days.
So this is something that I should use, the N95 mask.
Yeah, so that's a 3M
Okay.
N95. That one's a little more rare, but I would say the KN95s, and there's other ones, in Europe they call it FFP2s. In Korea they call it KF94s. But these premium masks, short of N95, if you can get N95, great. Make sure it has no valves, because valves allow you to breathe out, which kind of defeats part of the purpose of the mask. But if you can get the N95s, great. But I think KN95s are enough of a protection, assuming you have good fit.
Okay. Well, I don't think we established this when we were emailing, but I'm from Florida. So, as you know, nobody wears masks down here. Specifically, I'm in Jacksonville, Florida. So, nobody's wearing... Like, when I wear a mask...
hospitals are maxed out, by the way, right now.
Boy, it is crazy. I have friends that work in these hospitals and these places, and they tell me how crazy and packed it is. So, when I wear a mask outside, I'm looked at like I'm like a creep or something. It's like, oh, look at that guy with the mask on. So when I went to New York recently for a business trip, I couldn't find one person without a mask on. So it just showed me the cultural difference. So you being an epidemiologist and studying these epidemics and pandemics, is there usually a thing outside of America where there's a cultural difference within the same country, or is that just an America thing where one state might do it and the other state might not? Is that specific to America?
Well, America's a big place.
Yeah.
Blue and red states are very, very different. People in Vermont, vaccination rate is like almost 70% fully vaccinated. In some southern states, you're at like in the 30s, and there's some counties that are literally just in the teens in terms of vaccination rates of fully vaccinated. No, if you go to Europe, you see the same thing where, Greece, where it's just, economically very teetering near bankruptcy a few years ago versus, Norway and Germany, which are economically strong. And similarly, culturally, they're very different, right? Greece, you can be like, I'll be like 15, 20 minutes, 30 minutes late when you say 7 o'clock. But in Germany, you have to run things on time. So it's, there's cultural differences around that. Now, masks, though, it's all about leadership. In some countries like Norway and Finland and Denmark, which surround Sweden, have really, really good precautionary measures because their leaders, you know, took COVID seriously. Sweden's just like, you know what? Let's just keep things open. Let's try to go for herd immunity, even though it's dangerous to go for herd without a vaccine. That basically means like let's have a burn through. So whenever someone says that natural herd, it means I want to burn through this forest, let the virus burn, which is incredibly, incredibly dangerous. And so Sweden had huge, huge mortality rates. So Sweden is like the Florida of Scandinavia, right?
Okay.
It's all relative. It really depends on political leadership. In Florida, it's led by Ron DeSantis. We know who he is, and we know who he supports. I think politics, unfortunately, is killing people right now. Whether masks or vaccines, vaccine hesitancy. Fox News pushing a vaccine hesitancy for the longest time up until last week. Whenever I think some higher ups gave them a call and was like, "Hey, we got to cut this anti-vax stuff out." I think politics. The virus does not care about politics, but the politics dictates the mask wearing, the precautionary thing around should we lock down or not lock down early on last year. What is the indoor restrictions, vaccines, all these things. It all plays into politics. We hope that public health shouldn't be politics, but public health is policy. Policy is politics, and it will get muddled and dirty. And so this is why we're still in this stupid pandemic right now.
What an American thing to have a political issue over a virus, right? It doesn't get more American than that.
Yeah. I saw a sign recently that says, we should rethink the phrase "avoid it like a plague." Now that we know half the people don't even take a plague seriously.
That's
right?
a fact.
Yeah. What a world we live in.
It's a crazy world, and just not even brought it to the world. Let's keep it to the state of Florida really quickly, because there's questions that I don't know if you may know, but I feel like it'd be right to ask you. So Ron DeSantis, I feel like, has handled this very like irresponsibly and crazy. One of the first things I realized he did was when it first happened, spring break was happening, and I remember that everything was still open, and he didn't like decide to close down anything till after spring break. So I was like, oh, so he's running this like a business, you know? He wants to get the money out of everybody, and then after everything's done, he's like, all right, now we'll close down. So one thing that I seen reported that was going around in Florida that was pretty big news, but it kind of went away. I don't know if you know anything about this, but there was a scientist or a data collector. She was a woman, and I remember she said that he was reporting false numbers. Like he was reporting numbers lower, but they were actually higher. Was there any truth to that?
Yeah, so you're talking about Rebecca Jones.
Yes, Rebecca Jones.
Yeah, she's a whistleblower. Yeah, I respect what she did. I think, clearly Florida has been, muddying the numbers. I won't use any other phrase for now.
Okay.
Based on everything that we've read. But, right now, the Florida doesn't even report data on COVID on a daily basis anymore. They only report once a week. We're in the middle of a really, really bad surge, and with the most infectious, most contagious, fastest transmitting variant ever known to date. And, Ron DeSantis is like, once a week is enough. Like, we don't need to know daily numbers. Who needs daily numbers? And he still has not backpedaled from that. And of course, he convenes things with anti-maskers who tell him, oh, we don't need masks, even though the science is pretty clear you need the masks. There's kind of rogue scientists out there there's rogue anti-vax doctors, there's rogue anti-mask doctors. You can cherry pick so much in this world to like frame it just based on what you want it to say.
Yeah.
In public health, at the end of the day, the virus will virus, and cherry picking will not help you. You can cherry pick what you want with climate change, but you can't deny climate change in these days. Look, there's political leadership, and political leadership, good or bad, saves lives or kills. and destroys lives. And I think we cannot undercount the damage that bad political leadership can do. I'll just leave it at that. But politics matter. Policies matter. As much as I hate politics sometimes, they decide policies that change our lives. So go out and make sure you vote every election.
Well, something that is intertwined with politics at this point is the vaccine. And something that I really found interesting about the vaccine is that I've discovered being in Florida and interacting with people, two different type of groups, or three different type of groups. One, people that are getting the vaccine. Two, people that are filled with misinformation, saying things that are just like obviously not true, like oh, we're gonna put a chip in me, or just like very just like QAnon type of conspiracy theories. I found those type of people. And then the third group of people it's the people that I feel like has kind of been underrepresented that I haven't really heard talked about a lot. And those are a lot of, I would say, black people that are very hesitant of hospitals in general, not just this vaccine. I
Right.
remember
That's a good point.
I've done a lot of research on this, and I know that black people are, if I'm not mistaken, the most hesitant people to ever go to the hospital. There's a book by Dr. Her name is slipping my name right now. I'm slipping my brain right now, but she has a book called Medical Apartheid, where she talks about just since the beginning of since slavery until now how black people have been experimented on blah 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 blah. So my point is
Yeah.
to those group of people who are I guess hesitant, not believing in conspiracy theories, but just hesitant of things like that in general, what would you say to them, I guess, to ease their mind and maybe try to get the vaccine?
Yeah. So very good point. So this is a racial social justice issue. Like we know that black people are just on a general scale are discriminated more in healthcare. All right. Like they've done studies in which you have a patient telling the same story, and if it was a white female, white male versus black female, black male, you get very different treatment responses. But that aside, one of my best friends, Dr. Professor Leviste, he does this. He's African American, does a racial injustice research on this, and he knows how this exists. And he's a dean of Tulane School of Public Health. It happens. The history of obviously Tuskegee is what comes to most people's mind with the Tuskegee syphilis study. But I want people to remember Tuskegee was a whole university. It was a Southern university founded by black scientists. That it did more than this. Tuskegee was just one study that was done. Tuskegee was most famously, I just want people to know the history. So when we had the polio vaccine, we were doing the trials, randomized trials to test and prove the polio vaccine worked. Jonas Salk needed 10,000 vials of a certain compound every single week for 400,000 vials to do his study. And what made it possible was actually the black scientists at Tuskegee Institute. And Tuskegee Institute literally, this is back in you have to think about it, this is 80, 90 years ago. They had, in the deep south, they had to keep refrigerated 10,000 vials on ice, 10,000 vials, and ship them across the country every single week. And that was all done by African American scientists who synthesized the vials needed to do the trials to prove that the polio vaccine works. And the polio vaccine has saved literally millions of kids from a lifetime of disability, and wheelchair and death, right? And, Tuskegee Institute and all these African Americans, African American history actually were very much critical in the development of one of the most famous vaccines in history for polio. And so I think people should realize the contribution of African American research to developing safe vaccines. Because if it weren't for these African American scientists with 10,000 vials, the main inventor of the vaccine could not have proven that it worked. And so people have to realize that was a long time ago. The world has changed. Think about how many things have changed in 80 years, right? The world has changed. We have improved vaccines. We have improved the ethics. Since then, the civil rights movement has happened, right? Since then, obviously, I was at Obama, and obviously that's not the end of racism. Black Lives Matter is still critical today, but in terms of medical research, we're not experimenting on and abusing African Americans anymore. Like, I think we should remove that notion whatsoever. It's not that they're just using us as guinea pigs. No, we've already done the trials. The trials were all volunteers, and they've all done them. And if anything, we need more African Americans because we want to know if a drug, which oftentimes is tested in white people, works in African Americans. If we don't, believe in medical research, then we're going to have less effective drugs for African Americans. So look, medical research saves lives, and the vaccines today are incredibly safe. And the old history of what happened. Don't forget, there was bad things that happened in Tuskegee, but also Tuskegee helped save millions of lives. So I think we should not stick to that old narrative of, they were just experimenting on us, because that was clearly a long time ago, and we have come a long ways. And there are really good parts of Tuskegee that really led to vaccines being made available for the world.
Well, it's crazy because I feel like there's so much mistrust from the black community in like government and hospitals and stuff like that that I think is going to take like a very long time to where you see black people are very trustworthy for doctors to work on them, and because I know like there's just like 3 times more likely for a black woman to die during birth than like a white woman or something like that. So it's
Yeah,
just a lot of crazy things of that such. But
right.
yeah,
Although that's not necessarily like doctors being like callous or
yeah,
sloppy. It's just oftentimes there's risk factors. African Americans sometimes have more diabetes, right? And the diabetes makes and obesity makes the childbirth have complications. It's not like they don't care about us.
yeah.
They treat us like as second class citizens. There are other reasons, and I want to just emphasize that. And by the way, the Tuskegee polio thing, just Google Tuskegee polio vaccine, and you will find a wealth of stories about that exact situation. It's published in Scientific America. Look, I think African American trust is very important, but at this point, it's killing African Americans way, way more than anybody else in terms of excess mortality. In terms of actual rate and death, it is killing African Americans way more than any white people. An African American male, the drop in life expectancy last year is so big. It dropped like I think 4 or 5 years equivalent in your life expectancy. The African American male's life expectancy has now dropped to 68 years. It's the first time it's been it's one of the biggest drops in history. And in terms of like dropping below 70 years of life expectancy is just crazy. And African American men, Hispanic, whites, we all dropped, but African Americans especially. So look, this COVID is killing African Americans more than any virus. It's because African Americans work in more frontline jobs, essential jobs, oftentimes more dangerous situations, and they're not given enough PPEs by their employers, and especially when they work in a lot of these dangerous situations. They need the vaccine more than anyone, right? This is, and again, it's killing off your brothers and sisters if you ignore it. So I think every community leader should get together on this issue and literally just stop with the nonsense, save lives, and please trust in public health. Public health doesn't, by the way, the joke in public health is this: it's not like medicine. We don't make big money like in medicine. Medicine, if you become a doctor, you make tons of money. In public health, it's the only field you study for more years to coming out owing more student loans, so you have the privilege of earning less money. That's public health. In public health, there is no profit motive in public health. It's literally just saving lives.
So, with all the vaccines out there, is there a vaccine that you would recommend for people to get? Is there a safer one or more effective one than the others?
No, just take any of them. Now, I think with the Delta variant, we should go with Moderna or Pfizer. 2 doses. We should go with 2 doses because Johnson & Johnson is technically a 1-dose vaccine. It worked well enough against the original virus, but I think for Delta variant, we don't have the exact evidence. There's some evidence from Hopkins that Johnson & Johnson is a little weaker, but then so are every vaccine. But the thing is, they protect you really well when you have 2 doses. And if you have previously Johnson & Johnson, there's scientists out there who say you should get a Moderna or a Pfizer as a booster. Just go out to a different pharmacy and just get it. But I think you should get Moderna or Pfizer because I think these 2 vaccines are currently the best protection against that we have in the U.S. So don't hesitate, just vaccinate.
Well, one thing that we see super eye to eye on, and I've been waving the flag on, is a couple months ago, I remember the CDC came out and said that if you're not vaccinated, or if you're vaccinated, you don't have to wear your mask anymore. You can just go to places and be maskless. If you're not vaccinated, you need to wear your mask. And I remember seeing that and thinking, I don't think anybody should be walking out of the house with no mask on. So I remember I've been seeing that you've been waving the flag heavy that we need to be masked up, vaccinated or not vaccinated. Why do you think they went wrong on that? Where did that go wrong?
Yeah, so I want to first say outdoors, it's lower risk, but indoors, you should definitely always mask whenever you can, because indoors, this is an airborne virus. Indoors, if you, the same reason why we banned smoking indoors is that the cigarette smell would just go everywhere. There's no such thing as a cigarette-free, smoke-free part of the restaurant when the rest of the restaurant has smoking. It just builds up. It's an airborne virus, and there's usually not enough ventilation indoors. So I think CDC just saw that, it gave enough protection. Infections were kind of low. They're dropping fast, and the vaccine seems to work, 95% for symptomatic and 80% for total infections. It's good enough. But it's leaky. It is still leaky. And, this is kind of saying, remember in January of 2020 when it said, WHO said, well, there's no evidence of human transmission. No, you don't have evidence. That doesn't mean it doesn't happen. Lack of evidence is not evidence or proof of lack of the actual effect. And, they said, we don't have evidence that vaccinated people can transmit. But they do, damn it. They do. And there was a lot of emerging evidence that they do. And so I think CDC made a grave mistake about that. They saw cases were dropping. It's like, things are fine. Let's just go back to normal. They were like, it's kind of like you jump the gun before, you count the eggs before they hatch, and then you realize not all of them hatched. And now you're in trouble because you promised so many eggs. This is the problem. And the Delta variant came along, and Delta variant is super evasive against 1 dose. For 2 doses, it's much leakier. And, we should have taken the precautionary principle. To err is human, to correct divine. And I always want to err on the side of caution. Because, you make one mistake, and the virus keeps spreading, and then you have a wildfire. It's kind of like if your job as a firefighter is to stop this wildfire, is it really responsible? It's like, we can let 1 out of 10, small wildfire just go through. Let's just put out 9 out of 10 of these trees are on fire. We'll let it's okay. The fire is coming down. We'll just let 1 of them burn. No, that one fire and that one tree that you neglected is going to start a new forest fire. And with COVID, that's what happens. You let it have a leak and it spreads out. This is why you have to think of it as Swiss cheese. Vaccines are great protects you against hospitalization, 90% or more against the Delta. But for infection, it's much lower. It's leaky. It's like a fence. But if you add that plus masks, it's kind of Swiss cheese. When you layer the Swiss cheese together, you're not going to have any holes that can go all the way through. Each layer has a Swiss cheese hole, but if you put enough layers together, there's not going to be a hole. you're going to plug all the holes. And so that's why we know that vaccines work great to prevent you against hospital, but against transmitting it, breathing it out, again, remember the 1,000 times viral load concentration? A much smaller concentration, probably infects you faster, and you are also giving off 1,000 times potentially more infection. This is why we needed to double up all our safeguards. Like when all these oil tankers, remember the Exxon Valdez oil spill? Back then they had a rule. They didn't have a rule that you had to double wall your oil tankers. So it ran aground, boom, millions of gallons of oil spilled out. What did they do since then? They double walled the hulls so that if you run aground and you crack through the first hull, the oil doesn't spill out because there's a second hull inside. Double hull your oil tankers, and that's how we prevent most of the oil spills that we had back then. And this is kind of like a double hulling. We need to have vaccines plus masks. This is the lesson. You have a backup. You have everyone who jumps off a parachute has a backup parachute, right? Because the first parachute get tangled somehow and not open. You do not want to jump from a parachute that has 95. This parachute will open 90% of the time. Would you get in that parachute?
Nah.
No, you would get a second parachute, right? You want to this is why you have backup plans. These are backup generators, backup parachutes, backup hulls on oil tankers. This is where, CDC basically saying having having vaccines and no masking is basically we don't need a backup hull. We don't need a backup parachute. We need that backup parachute because this is a runaway fire.
So, my fault. I'm sorry. I didn't mean to cut you off.
No, this is a runaway fire, and you need backup systems in order to stop it.
Well, on that conversation of backup systems, I'm pretty sure there's people watching this that are in this predicament. So let's say if a person has no vaccine but wears their N95 or wear their premium mask, is what it was called. How protected are they against these Delta variants?
Like protection against the virus, it's hard to say because everyone wears them differently. I would say the amount of viruses that you breathe in is reduced 95%, right? Hence the name, KN95, for most particles. The problem is, of course, that there's leakiness. People sometimes get sweaty. They pull off the nose or rub their nose. I do that sometimes.
Yeah.
It gets itchy. You get tired. And the nose bridge is usually not good for some people. Like when you put a nose bridge here, there's a gap in the nose bridge, right?
Yeah.
It happens. So the best fit, the KN95, that thing you showed me has this strap over your head, and and you tighten it. It's supposed to be tight. Basically, if you wear it super tight, that it creates like a crease on your face after you take it off. That is pretty tight. But the problem is, of course, we don't always wear that tight. But it does give you a lot of protection, I will say. Like, this is not saying that, don't wear it. But this is why you need to additionally take precautions to open windows to ventilate, right? And now, obviously, some places they can afford portable HEPA filters, UV disinfection, but that's not everyone. But this is why a vaccine is so much more effective. And vaccine's a backup also of the mask, because even if you do get some virus, the vaccine is a training program. It trains your body. Like in kindergartners, it's like, don't take candy from strangers, right? Only as a teacher. Don't go home if it's not mommy, daddy, or teacher. Don't get into a random car with a stranger. And it's kind of like, who do you recognize? Who do you not recognize? And the vaccine is a training program of, this is a bad guy, a wanted poster here of the spike protein. It teaches your body how to deal with the real virus when it shows up, because you're showing it the wanted poster for the spike protein. Like, beware of this guy. So that's how the vaccine works. And the vaccine, coaches your body to recognize. So even if you do get some virus in, for some reason, you will, even if you get some virus, your body can fight it. And again, this is why reserve, this is why we have Army reserves, right? We have a reserve army, whether the mask or the vaccine is the reserve or backup for each other, it doesn't really matter. They work together. And so vaccines and the masks are together. I would say if you do both, I would say you're 98, 99% protected.
Wait, I don't want to keep you for too long. But one thing I do want to touch on before we go is something I've seen you tweet about. Is kind of how I found out about it outside of somebody else I know suffering through this. Is that people being vaccinated and still dying, fully vaccinated, getting COVID and dying. Is there any updates on that? Because like you said in January, was you can't even transmute the disease if you have the vaccine. So what's the updates on
So
that?
I want to point out that everyone has a different immune system, right? Some people can handle infection really quickly. Some people almost never get sick. And then, of course, some people have other risk factors, other diseases, and some people are just more elderly. So elderly people and those with underlying conditions and risk factors, diseases, immune conditions have a tougher time fighting the virus. And so there's going to be more breakthrough infections among them. And now, most of the time it's mild, but sometimes they do get hospitalized. It's true. Again, the efficacy against the Delta right now is it used to be 98% against the old virus to prevent hospitalization. Now it's like closer to 90. It's still good, but it's not foolproof. So it does happen. And this is why we need to still do other mitigations on top, right? The Delta is more evasive than before. It's like, it's better at dodgeball, right? Can dodge more balls of what you throw at it. So it does happen, but just because you see it happen does not mean that the vaccine doesn't work, right? There are people who smoke cigarettes and live to 100. Not that it's common, but it does happen. But in general, cigarettes kill you. In general, vaccines save your life. So just because you can find one example of someone, I know someone who died. Well, yeah, A, it happens. And B, the other thing is we've vaccinated, 150, 160 million people already? And, in total, people, we've done over like 200 million. Now, a lot of people die every year naturally. And so when you vaccinate 200 million people, you're just going to randomly have people who would have died anyways. Yeah. And it just so happens they got a vaccine because, 2/3 of the country has gotten at least one shot of the vaccine. So you're going to run into these coincidences because 2/3 of the country has gotten it. And, there are hundreds of thousands of people who die every year for other causes. So it could look like, that's a suspicious timing. But it's just bad luck timing if you have so many. And this is why we have epidemiology. Like, the saying, correlation is not causation, but every causation is a correlation. You just have to know what happens when. And yeah, breakthroughs do happen. That's why I tell people, breakthroughs happen too. Breakthroughs that cause you to get hospitalized. And this is why you still need to, mask up, still need to ventilate, open your windows. It's not, think of it like a bulletproof vest. The vaccine is like a bulletproof vest, but it's not going to protect you from an armor-piercing round. It's not going to protect you from a, high-powered machine gun, or these big Gatling guns, or these big mini turrets. Yeah. It's a bulletproof vest. Will protect you from a few bullets, but it doesn't make you an invulnerable shield, right? And so right now, with so much more virus, it's basically like we're walking through a shooting range. If you're walking through a shooting range, your bulletproof vest, it may fail, right? You should be really, really careful about that. So again, it's a bulletproof vest, but it's not completely invulnerable vest. And so that's why people need to still do the masking on top and stay vigilant.
Last question: should we expect any more variants, like the Delta?
Yeah, we will. It's
Okay.
like if my saying is, a virus can't mutate if it can't replicate. But a virus, if we give it more warm bodies, and there's going to be millions of people more infected, if we give it more warm bodies, the virus will use our bodies as a playground, right?
Mm.
It's going to play around and it's going to figure out, oh, let's find a pathway that can evade as many of these people's immune systems as possible. That will happen. The only way to stop happening, if you wear a mask, because does a mask care about mutations? No. Masks will filter all the same, right? Vaccinate. If you suppress this virus to as low as possible, you reduce the playground for it to play on and develop a mutation, right? Basically, just stop it from replicating, and the chance, it's like a lottery when the virus will kind of break through, or also the virus will find a super strain variant. It's basically, if you give it like millions of lottery tickets to play and a chance to win, it will eventually find a winning lottery ticket for itself that will evade our immune systems even more, right? And be more aggressive. So you need to stop. Every person it affects is like a lottery ticket for the virus. Ooh, another chance to find something, a winner. We got to stop that. Stop giving it warm bodies. Stop giving it lottery tickets for the virus to find, a winning combination. This is why we got to do all these things and do them all now. Because if we let it leak through this single layer Swiss cheese, it's going to keep going. The virus is just so transmissible. This virus is more transmissible than smallpox now. Delta is more transmissible than smallpox. It is that damn dangerous.
Wait, man, I appreciate you coming through. If there's anything else you have to say, the floor is yours.
I think just, people just take it seriously, and sometimes out there, you might see a lot of people not wearing masks, and you have someone vulnerable at home, you have children at home, you have friends who are vulnerable, and you want to protect them. Please wear a mask on top of, in addition to vaccinating. And what is popular is not always right. As in, just because you're in Florida and not many people are wearing masks doesn't make it right. What is right is not always popular. And I think the key thing is that doing what is right, what will save lives, is the most important thing. Most important thing. So please stay safe. And keep your family and your neighbors and your community safe.
I appreciate you. Hopefully, by this time next year, this is over. I know that the last pandemic of 1918 lasted about 2 years, so hopefully, this is over by the time next year. Hopefully.
Yeah. Hopefully. Please.
Until next time, for everybody watching, I say what I mean what I say. Haters are going to hate, players are going to play. You guys holler at your boy.